Tā. Tātad vēlreiz stāsts sākās
So the story begins with the fact that the number of inhabitants decreases in Riga, while in the areas surrounding Riga, the number of people increases. People return to Riga to work, they use the city, but those who have stayed behind, their living environment becomes worse because the number of cars keeps increasing. This is a wonderful picture that illustrates the current situation. Namely, the space is filled with an enormous quantity of cars. I analyzed this situation and counted how many pedestrians we have in this space and how many users of private cars and public transportation. And here we can see how disproportionate these numbers are. We see how much space the cars demand. Here you can see how the street continues. This is Maria's Street. The traffic department plans to widen the street even more, and the pavements would be much narrower. And then we have to ask whether the people actually want something like this. This is the railway station square, a place we all know. And here you can see how it looked a while ago and now, namely at the beginning of the 20th century and now. And we can look at these two pictures in many ways. For example, we can say that this was something that we used to have and that is no more. But at the same time, we can also think that this is something that awaits us in the future, because we just have to make a decision. And the same refers to this dichotomy. In the first picture, we see the time when the city grew, and we also see the time maybe a few weeks ago. And then we have to ask, what are our priorities? This is a tunnel on the 13th January Street, and this is a barrier to people, and it was created in the 60s of the previous century. We can claim that this is something in the past, but no. Things continue as they used to be because new tunnels are being constructed, and the situation doesn't improve. This is how this exact space looked in the 60s, and this was in a way a turning point, because the city is being built still for vehicles. Here we see some more mistakes that were made in the 60s, namely the riverbanks and the riverbank corridors were transformed into streets. And now, for the people to go to the river, they have to overcome certain barriers. The planning that was started in the 60s and 70s, namely this approach, still continues. Here you can see Daugavgrīva Street, which was built according to the approaches that were applied at that time. For example, pedestrians can cross the street once in half a kilometer, and there are other barriers, and this is not actually a street, it's like a highway. There are no trees in the street. The street is very new, but it's at the same time very obsolete, morally obsolete. Here we can also clearly see that the street which is like a highway, it was planned thinking just about the cars, and nobody thought about the needs of pedestrians. And there are some other examples here. But at the same time, we can have various scenarios. For example, if we decide that we will use a standard solution, then it can be adapted and transformed. Here you can see various possibilities, various options with differing effects. Here you can see Tvaika Street now. But to allow the cars to get into the city center easier, the city plans to build a road. This is a visualization of trying to merge Daugavgrīvas Street and Tvaika Street, but I have to say that situation could be different. Currently, the problems are solved by wider streets, by more lanes. But this is not a solution, because if we build new streets, the traffic jam just moves to the next bottleneck points. Because if we build more roads, we'll have more cars. We have to change our approach to streets. We have to think about how we can move people around the streets instead of measuring how many cars drive on it, because the physical space of streets should be created in a way so that they or one street can accommodate various means of transportation, including bicycles and also including pedestrians. One of the ways to ensure that changes take place, we have to educate the society so that society would demand such changes. And social networks is a very good opportunity to do that, because we can place these before and after images that actually stirs the discussion. This is how Vanshu Bridge looks at this moment. But if we develop a different scenario, which currently maybe might seem unimaginable or impossible, it would still make us discuss not only this specific project, but also the development of the city as such. Here you can see Brīvības Street, which is a central street, which is grey, noisy. People don't want to spend their time on the street. Every day there is a traffic jam, and it seems that there is no solution to that. Here you can see what happens with small businesses that are located on this street, because nobody wants to stay there. Brīvības Street near the Ģertrūda Church. The space is not used efficiently. Priority is given to vehicles. But if we look at possible options, then the situation could be quite different. We could create environments that is pleasant for the people. This is still the same street, but a bit narrower. And it seems that there is no possibility for change, but actually there are options, and we can make it a safe street for everyone. This is Avotu Street near Pāvils Church, the crossroads, and here you can see the proportion between vehicles, proportion of space between vehicles and pedestrians. And again, we have the priority given to vehicles. People actually cannot cross this crossroad because it's very dangerous. But we can have a different scenario. Speaking about Avotu Street, it's very narrow. The road is only 6 meters wide, and it seems that no change is possible. Still, the street is a very important connection between Purciems, Pļaunieki and the center of Riga. And 100,000 people live in those areas, so the street has a lot of potential to become the cycling route with very intensive cycling traffic, bicycle traffic. Here you can see the shared space, two-way road, but the street is transformed into something in which people want to live, and this would allow to transform this street into a very pleasant street instead of what people have now, a noisy, dusty place. According to the long-term development strategy of Riga, initially it seems that change is possible, that things will improve, but upon a more detailed study, we have to come to a conclusion that nothing will change, because the priorities do not actually agree with financing, because there is no investment in the priority means of transport. And if this is implemented, I think the situation will become worse, because investments are planned in 6 main roads, and eventually the presence of cars in the city will definitely increase, intensify. So what can be done? This is Brooklyn. Not so much is required. You just need an idea, some paint, and the desire to change, and everything can happen. And with very simple means, you can achieve a lot. An example from Salzburg. It could as well be one of the streets in Riga. And by transforming this place, people can not only feel different visualizations, but also in the practice, they can sit down, they can use the space. Also an example from Riga. Toms Kokins and Evelyn Ozola created a life-size model, and they wanted to demonstrate that change is possible. Valdemāra Street, which is basically jammed every day, very noisy. And for a day, this road was closed, the street was closed for transport on the day when our museum of art was opened, and you see what happened. And I hope that in the future the streets will be more open to people and not more closed to people. And that's all from me. Thank you.